The rodeo ground on the fringe planet Cora 5 was alive like never before. Dozens of small towns across 3 moons had gathered to watch cyberbulls throw off riders. Hover lassos whirl through the air, and mech horses sprint through dust rings. Children climbed onto their parents' shoulders, the smell of churros and fried food drifting through the open arena. No one was prepared for the sight that stepped out of the old, battered solar truck. A woman with a long brown coat climbed down, her boots striking the ground with heavy thuds. A wide-brimmed hat shaded her face from the harsh twin suns. But it wasn't the woman alone that made everyone stop and stare. She carried something in the crook of her arm, a small, sleek creature with silver scales that shimmered in strange shifting colors. Its tiny wings flicked open as if they belonged to a bird, and its tail ended in a soft feathered tip. The strangest part, the Dragonling wouldn't stop talking. I don't like the heat. Hannah, are we there yet? Why are those cows wearing helmets? Can I eat the cows? Oh wait, I smell Can I have churros now? You promised churros. The crowd gasped and murmured. Children pointed, and grown men whispered, trying to guess what the strange creature was. Hannah, the Dragonling complained again, tugging lightly on her sleeve with its claw. You said churros. I smell them. I want 5. No, 6. Later, the woman muttered, pulling her hat lower. But you promised. The Dragonling groaned, puffing out a little smoke. The woman's name was Hannah Ree. She was an ex-rancher, an ex-smuggler, and now someone trying to survive on the edge of the galaxy. Life had not been kind to her. But right now, none of that mattered. She walked straight toward the rodeo gates. The gate guard blinked at her. Ma'am, what is that? Hannah tilted her head calmly. Entry for the open round. Raptor class. The guard scratched his head, staring at the Dragonling. You can't enter that. It's a talking alien. I saved him from a crash pod 3 weeks ago outside Gunner Creek, Hannah said. He insists he's my partner. I am also adorable, the Dragonling added with a big grin. And I shoot lightning. Pew pew. The guard rubbed his neck nervously. We don't have rules for dragons. Then write some, Hannah said firmly. We're here to win. The crowd near the gate murmured louder. Word spread. Fast the lady brought a talking dragon to compete. 3 weeks earlier, Hannah had been out checking the fences on the last small patch of land she still owned. Creditors had taken everything else, and her ranch was now just a broken memory. That was when a fiery streak cut across the sky. She watched as a small pod crashed behind the ridge. She grabbed her rifle and hurried over. In the smoking crater, she found a small silver creature, tangled in sharp wires and bits of metal. It was screaming at the wreckage. Get me out of here, you cactus-headed human. It barked in 4 different languages. That was Hannah's first introduction to the Dragonling, who called himself Physic, but who quickly insisted Hannah call him Fizz. She cut him free and carried him home. That night, he made a nest in her broken oven and declared, I am now your partner for life. We will survive together. Hannah didn't believe him. He burned half the fences with his lightning powers, scared her cattle into the irrigation tanks, and refused to sleep unless he had 3 pillows. She tried to make him leave twice, but every time he called her partner, something in her hardened heart cracked just a little. He was loud, annoying, and impossible to control, but he was also completely alone, just like her. Back at the rodeo, the whispers had grown into laughter and shouts. Is that thing wearing goggles? Someone yelled. He just insulted the judge's hat. Another said. Fizz adjusted his tiny goggles proudly. This crowd has good taste. They already love me. Hannah grabbed him and carried him into the ready pen. She crouched down and glared into his big shining eyes. You so much as fry a rope. I'm walking out, she warned. Fizz blinked innocently. No lightning, she repeated. He sighed dramatically. Fine, but if I win, I get extra churros. The first event was Rogue Lasso, a timed contest where riders chased robotic calves through shifting obstacle fields. The buzzer blared, and before Hannah could even blink, Fizz exploded forward. His wings buzzed like a dragonfly's. He zipped through spinning metal gates, rolled under moving walls, and darted past swinging mechanical arms with impossible speed. Tag, he shouted as he zapped the calf's leg with a harmless shock. Tag and bagged. Boom. The timer stopped. The crowd gasped. Record time. Fizz zipped back and landed on Hannah's shoulder, puffing out his tiny chest. I am a legend, he declared. You're a headache, Hannah muttered, but the corners of her lips twitched upward. The crowd roared louder. People began to place bets. That night, as Hannah was walking back to her trailer, A shadow stepped out from behind a cargo crate. A tall man in a black coat blocked her path. He had sharp features, eyes like ice, and a corporate badge clipped to his collar. "I'm Agent Minxia Quan," he said coldly. "That creature you're parading around. It's a Class 7 off-world specimen, highly restricted." Hannah crossed her arms. "He's got a name." Fizz peeked out from behind Hannah's leg. "And I'm very well spoken. Also cute." Also owed Churros. Minxiok's expression hardened. "You're not authorized to keep him. He may be property of the Levac Combine. Hand him over, and I'll make sure you're compensated." Hannah stepped closer, her voice low and steady. "He's not property. He crashed alone. No one came for him. He stays with me." Fizz climbed up onto her shoulder and hissed, tiny sparks crackling around his teeth. "No one takes me unless Hannah says so," he growled. Minxiok's jaw tightened. "This isn't over," he said, then disappeared into the shadows. Fizz shivered. "I don't like that guy," he whispered. Hannah exhaled slowly. "We win tomorrow," she told him quietly. "We win, and no one takes you away." Fizz pressed his little head against her neck, and Churros. Hannah gave a faint smile. "Yeah, and Churros." The twin suns of Korra 5 burned hot the next day as the rodeo arena filled with the largest crowd anyone had ever seen. Dust swirled in the air as children waved handmade signs and vendors shouted about fresh churros and spiced drinks. Everyone was waiting for one team, the cowgirl and the Dragonling. Hannah retightened the strap on her worn gloves as she stood by the gate. Fizz, the silver-scaled Dragonling, buzzed around her head, goggles on and wings beating fast. "Do you hear them?" he whispered excitedly. "They're cheering for us. We're famous. Hannah, we're going to be legends. Also, I still want churro." "Win first," Hannah said, tugging her hat low over her eyes. "Then we'll talk about churros." Fizz perched on her shoulder, claws gripping the leather of her coat. He dropped his voice to a whisper. "Are you scared?" Hannah didn't answer. Right away, the truth was yes. The final event was called Skychase Aerial Relay, and it was the hardest challenge in the rodeo. Riders and their beasts had to pass through dozens of floating anti-gravity rings, dodge fire tunnels, and swap mid-air on a hoverboard. It was designed for humans and trained beasts, not a tiny alien dragon who had barely learned not to burn down fences. But she looked at Fizz, his bright eyes shining with excitement, and said quietly, "No, we can do this. We're partners." Fizz puffed up his chest. "Best partners in the galaxy." The announcer's voice boomed across the arena. "Next up Hannah, Ree and her, dragon." The crowd exploded into cheers and laughter. Fizz flared his wings. "They love me," he whispered. "Go," Hannah said, and the gate opened. The buzzer sounded. Hannah shot forward on her hoverboard, Fizz streaking beside her like a silver comet. They plunged through the first anti-gravity ring as fire jets exploded all around them. Fizz darted up, spinning through rings too small for any other competitor. Left, right, no, up, Fizz shouted as Hannah swerved. They barely missed a collapsing gate. The announcer yelled, "I don't believe it. They're ahead of the record time." The final section approached, a long vertical climb of floating rings and a dangerous mid-air swap. Hannah had to launch herself into the sky, grab Fizz, and together pass through the last blazing tunnel before the timer stopped. "Hannah, I'm not big enough to carry you," Fizz squeaked as they rocketed upward. "You're stronger than you think," she shouted back. At the last second, Hannah leapt from the hoverboard, grabbing Fizz tight. His wings strained as they dived through the flaming tunnel. Bzzzt. The timer stopped. The crowd went silent for a heartbeat, then erupted into the loudest cheers the rodeo had ever heard. New record. They had won. Fizz wriggled free and shot into the air. "We're champions. I am amazing. Churros for everyone." Hannah landed hard, her boots sliding through the dust. She caught Fizz mid-flight and held him close, laughing for the first time in a long time. "Yeah, partner, we did it." But before they could celebrate, a cold voice cut through the noise. "This is over." Agent Minxia Quan stepped into the arena with two corporate enforcers, their black armor glinting in the sunlight. The crowd went quiet, murmurs spreading as the men approached. "You will hand over the creature now," Minxiok said. "He is classified property of the Levac Combine. If you refuse, we will take him by force." Fizz pressed close to Hannah's neck, trembling. "I don't want to go with them," he whispered. Hannah stepped forward, facing Minxiok. "He's not property. He's my partner." "That thing is a weapon," Minxiok snapped. "He doesn't belong to you. He belongs to us." The enforcers reached for Fizz. The crowd gasped, but Fizz jumped onto Hannah's shoulder, sparks crackling from his wings. "No one takes me unless she says so," he shouted, his voice ringing across the arena. Reporters and camera drones swarmed around them, recording every moment. Hannah raised her voice. "Look around you. Everyone here saw us win. Everyone heard him talk. He's alive. He chooses where he belongs." The crowd erupted. "Let them go. Let them go." Children waved signs. People chanted Hannah's name. Minseok's face twisted. In frustration, he stepped forward, but Fizz spread his wings and shot a bolt of lightning into the dirt at Minseok's feet. The ground exploded in sparks. The crowd roared even louder. Reporters crowded Minseok, flashing lights and shouting questions. Under the weight of hundreds of cameras and voices, Minseok finally stepped back, his jaw tight. "This isn't over," he muttered. He turned and marched away with his enforcers. Fizz sagged against Hannah's shoulder, exhausted. "I was scared," he whispered softly. Hannah rubbed the top of his head. "I know. But you stood up for yourself. You're free now." Fizz blinked up at her. "Free? With churros?" she laughed, tears stinging her eyes. "Yes, free with churros." That night, they sat on the hood of Hannah's old solar truck, a box of fresh churros between them. The stars of Core 5 glimmered above. "Are we staying in the rodeo?" Fizz asked between mouthfuls. Hannah leaned back, staring at the endless sky. "I don't know. But people know our names now." Fizz grinned, his silver wings glimmering. "They'll remember the girl who saved the loud dragon. And the dragon who wouldn't shut up," Hannah said with a smirk. Hey, Fizz huffed, but then his voice softened. "You saved me, Hannah. I was so scared, but you didn't treat me like cargo. You called me partner." Hannah reached over and gently tapped his small head. "That's because you are, Fizz, my partner." Fizz curled against her shoulder, tail flicking happily. "Best partners in the galaxy," he whispered. Hannah smiled into the starlight. "Yeah, best partners in the galaxy."